Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk of the Town podcast with myself, Laura Kavanagh, Tracey Metcalf, Kiera Dignam, and the legend himself, the man who stayed alive, Christy Dignam.
Daddy Dignam.
AKA Kiera's dad.
How are you?
Christy, how are you, man?
Good, Laura. Very good.
We are so excited to have you here. I am so excited to have you here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, and you are the perfect man for the job because I know you like telling a story. So we're going all the way back to pre-technology and
I was going to say prehistoric.
all the cool stuff that the kids are missing out on these days, because they are missing out on everything. And I'll start with, right, because they're all shite cars, electric crap cars now.
Yeah.
What was your first car?
A Toyota Corolla.
That's my car now.
Ah,
I have the same car as
A
Christy
little blue
Dignam.
K20. They were great. They were the first car to have a lighter, the lighter on the dashboard.
Were
The
they?
first car to ever have them, yeah.
and we were laughing on the way up, and I was saying to Chris, I was going to ask you that question, and he said, I bet you whatever car it was cost €100 and it's worth fucking
It
thousands
actually
now.
cost €40.
Stop.
40.
€40.
I had no
Oh my
brakes.
God.
You wouldn't get a taxi into town
I
for that.
know, yeah.
I had no brakes.
Well, see, we were talking about pre-technology. I was talking a couple of years ago. I went to this, you know, that Muckra's house in Killarney. It's like an old, it's an old cottage, and there's the Bannon tea. The woman of the house there, and she's making butter or something.
Yeah.
They're all dressed in the period gear and that. So we went in a couple of years ago. This before, no, I was there subsequent with Kiera and that, but this before then. But I remember talking to the woman who was the Bannon tea in the house, and she was telling me she was from Killarney, and she was saying when she was born, there was only one telephone in the village, in the post office, and so everybody had to go to the post office to make a phone call and stuff like. There was no televisions and stuff like that. And how far it's come, you know.
Yeah.
And the way the length that technology has brought civilization forward in such a short space of time. The last time something like this happened was when trains were invented, because before trains, clocks were irrelevant. People kind of went afternoon, morning, evening. But once trains came along, and there was actually a time you had to be at a train station, like 9 o'clock, 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And only then people start, clocks became relevant, right?
Yeah.
Also, you could get fish. For example, you couldn't get a mackerel if you lived in Athlone because it was too far, and the fish would be kind of melty.
It'd be rotten by
on
the
a
time
horsey
it
cart.
got there, yeah.
But with trains, you could get them there the same day, so people could taste fish if they lived in Athlone, kind of thing.
Very
so
good.
it changed all, and today it's the same with this technology today. It's just changing everything. Sometimes it might be changing a little bit too fast. you
Yeah,
know.
like
Yeah.
kids are able to watch Netflix on the bus now. But I remember waiting till Friday to watch Funhouse after school.
Listen, I'll tell you a story. I remember years ago, right? We were in the house, and we could only get RTA on the television. We used to use aerials at the time, right? So if the wind blew a certain way and the aerial turned a certain way, you could get HTV, right, which
Yeah.
is like QTV. But we used to get together, but you know what, you just get snow, you can't see the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Me and my ma sat down and looked at a Dracula film. We couldn't see it, we could just hear it.
Yeah.
And we sat there for an hour and a half listening to a Dracula film.
And you were probably really
I'd say
entertained.
we're
Oh, it
back
was
into
brilliant.
it.
It was
Yeah.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
But you know, I had Kiera's kids up in the house a couple of times, and one would be on the iPad, and the other would be on the phone, and the telly's on, and
Yeah.
I don't know. We spent all our lives out in the street,
Yeah.
Yeah.
playing football.
And I have to say, my dad's 76 now, and he's a wrecks his head when we're sitting there on our phones in the house. He's like, will you all get off your phones? Like, it's like nobody really talks anymore.
It's
Yeah.
it's killing the art of conversation
Yeah.
and stuff.
The kids don't have social skills anymore.
Yeah,
They don't know how
absolutely,
to
you
talk
know.
to you.
You know, I mean, it has its place. Obviously, I'm not going to. You can't unring the bell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's out there now. It's not going to change. It's going to get more so. But it needs to be tempered. You know, it needs to be treated. You know, just as an aspect of life, not
Yeah.
life. And you know, even you're talking about the social media thing you were talking earlier on. Everybody has an opinion now. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody can say their opinion, and it can be very hurtful. You
Yeah.
know? It needs to be policed more. I think it's not supervised.
No, it's not
to the extent that it
supervised
should be. Now, I
at
don't mean
all.
it should be censored, but you know.
Yeah. But it gives a platform to trolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if people want to troll somebody and abuse somebody, there should be a consequence for it.
Absolutely,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? There's
Yeah.
not at the moment, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of it's like road rage. When you're behind the wheel of a car, like you'll put your hand on the horn
Yeah.
and scream out the window. But if you were face to face with somebody, you would
Yeah,
never.
you wouldn't
You
do
know.
that.
You can
So-
abuse, you can abuse somebody in the street and you get arrested.
Yeah.
But if you do it online, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
That's very
abuse
true.
Is abuse,
Yeah.
you know.
But it's like
And it
that
cuts
Have
us
you
in-
ever had that?
Absolutely, I get it all the time.
Do you?
I remember once, just to give you two small examples. Once we did a thing in the house, and I was wearing a Gap t-shirt,
Yeah.
a sweatshirt, and I just threw it on me, just a sweatshirt, and the lacquery I got, because apparently they use slave trades over in Africa.
Duh.
I didn't know, I was just wearing a top, and the lacquery got another time. I'm from Cabra, well, Navan Road, so we'd be north side, considered north side.
Yeah.
So Bohemians would be our football club kind
Yeah.
of thing. So there's a big thing with Bohemians, and Shamrock Rovers is a big, right? Because one's south side and one's north side. So I'm a Celtic fan. I'm obsessed with Celtic. So the manager from Shamrock Rovers invited me over to Celtic. Were over doing an exhibition match against Shamrock Rovers. So I threw on my Celtic top and went to the match. And that night, you can move out of English or carry a scumbag bastard. They thought I was wearing a Shamrock Rovers top because it's the same thing.
Yeah, the same colours.
Honest to God, they tell me to move out, you can move out, and like, I'm not talking about jokey, I'm talking
And the
about...
same people
Yeah,
would be
serious.
paying to go to an Aslan gig as
No,
well,
yeah.
cheering you
But the
on.
same people that are killing each other at that match will be together supporting Ireland next month. You know
Exactly,
what I mean?
Yeah,
It's bullshit.
that
Yeah,
is
no, it is.
It's again
bullshit.
football, you know, come on, get real.
Come here, I
Yeah,
have to ask you one more, right?
Go on.
What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you at a gig? Big or small gig?
Oh, Jesus.
I'd say you have some
The
stories.
most embarrassing thing that you thought, no.
Oh, I've had loads of embarrassing things. I remember once we were playing in Limerick, and the other day, so the stage was about 5 foot, and the other all the mosh people at front,
Yeah.
and I jumped off, and they all got out of the way.
Oh, stop.
Boom,
Stop it.
Oh,
Loads of
my
things
God.
like that.
Oh,
Kiera was
my
at the
God.
one of the first gigs she was at. It was in a place called Sarah Cullen out in Rathfarnham.
That's right, yeah.
And this bloke spit in my face. He took a mouthful of point and spit
Oh
in my
my
face.
God.
And you know the smell of spit? It's fucking horrible. Sorry.
I hope you
anyway,
decked him.
I jumped
He
off
did,
the thing, I had the mic and I bet him around.
Good.
All you could do is boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, like I was
hitting him with the
about
microphone.
14 at the time, and obviously I'm not a tall person,
Yeah.
so I couldn't see like what was happening. I could kind of like just about. Like if I'm at a gig and it's not a seated gig, I'm standing looking at the back of people's knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of could see something was going on, but it was like he was singing and then he wasn't singing, and it was just banging. Like all I could, I don't want to bang because Stuart will kill me. Boom, that like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's going on? And then it turned out that I kind of was looking and I seen a bit of a kerfuffle, and then realised what was happening, and he was bouncing the mic off your man's head, and then
my
the
God.
bouncers picked your man up, and as he was going out, everyone punching your man in the head on the way out.
Yeah, I have to say I would as
And
well.
the bouncers killed him outside.
Do you
Now I know
remember
they're
the
not
band
supposed to.
Five? Do you remember that
Yeah.
band
Yeah.
Five? So a couple of years ago I was playing in Vicar Street, and I went into the chipper. There's a chipper kind of up the road, just up to a few doors up. And I went in, and there was a woman there with these kids, kind of say 10 and 11-year-olds, and all her hair was wet. They had to be at some swim. I could see that at some swim bats thing or whatever. Anyway, I could see the woman saying, you know who he is? And they were talking to the kids, right? So one of the young ones came on, Mister, are you famous, you know? And I said, sort of, kind of, because it's a real weird question.
Yeah.
And she said, what band are you in? And I said, if I say Aslan, they're not going to have it.
No.
So I said, I'm in 5. You're in 65, you man.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Dublin humour is
Yeah.
amazing. It's great.
It is
you know.
brilliant, isn't it? I have one similar, right? I was going with Nikita, with my daughter. She's 21 now. But me and her were going around to Dales in Finglas Village, right? And you know, if you're coming down, you come around by Desi Ellis's office, and
Yeah.
you have
Around by
Costa,
Costa,
there,
yeah.
Yeah.
and you're heading towards there. So I'm going around Costa, and there was a load of young fellas on bikes. So I walked around them, and one of them moved down my way, and I says, thanks lads. And as I walked past, now I was after just throwing on a baseball cap because my hair was in bits, and a tracksuit and Air Max on me. So as I walked past your man after saying, nice one lads, your man's like, yeah, you're welcome, guard. And I says, what? I'm not a guard. And Nikita says to me, that's because you're wearing tracksuit and Air Max and a cap, and you're 40. So they think you're an undercover guard. I was like, so that means I'm too old now to wear a cap in case I'm mistaken for a guard. There you are.
Some things you have
You
to
have to
accept.
dress appropriate for your age.
Don't you? Yeah, apparently so.
And Christy, obviously the music industry has changed over all this time.
Yeah.
Did you prefer gigging back then, in the 80s, 90s, or do you prefer it now?
Well, the gigging is kind of the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people, you see, all around the industry has changed, obviously with technology as well, because there's so much technology now. But the one thing I hate the music business. As a business, it's a cesspit, you know. So the only thing that makes it tolerable is the stage time, because when you're on stage, like for example, if you make a record, I was talking to a DJ there a while ago, and I was asking him about the new single. I said, what do you think? He said, oh yeah, it's great and all this. I said, will you be playing it? And he said, well, it doesn't really sound like Anthem. And I said, what do you mean? It's too different. And I said, but I thought the whole point of music is to be different, you know. So what happens is, they listen, Ed Sheeran's successful, right? So you listen to the radio now, and there's a band, it could be any one of 5 acts, it could be Picture This, Ed Sheeran, you know, it could be one of 10 bands, because they all sound the same. Because what happens is, once one is successful, they all use the same producers, the same type of studios, the same auto
recipe.
tune.
So the sound starts to
So
sound
they all
the same.
sound the same. So the radio stations then think, well, this is what's been successful. This is what will bring in the revenue from the advertisers. So this is what we stick with.
Yeah.
So they won't kind of.
Yeah, there is no
bullshit.
wiggle around.
Whereas years
bullshit.
ago, that would have been a break, like Bowie.
That's how
Different would have been. Being different would have been
We'll
embraced.
never have another David Bowie or
No.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Because
Kate
years
Bush.
ago, when like Kate Bush, they'd sign an act and they'd say, for like you two, the third album will be the successful album.
Yeah.
It's called a development deal.
Yeah.
So they know that the band's going to develop over a period of time.
Yeah.
And we're not expecting hits in the first
Yeah.
2 albums, but the third album should be the one.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with you two. With the Joshua Tree, the third album was huge. Now you sign Tuesday and they want to hit single Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if you don't have it, you're dropped.
Yeah.
So it's just all crap now. So because of that, you don't get the likes of the Bowies and the Dylans to develop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
Because
even
they're
today
not
I was
allowed.
talking to my neighbour and I was saying that you were going to be coming on tonight. You were talking about music and how years ago a band or an artist was themselves and it was their music and they created that, and now it's just buttons.
Yeah.
Most of it's just pressing a button.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
not even
It's
instruments
It's
on
not
most of them.
even a real
It's taking the
talent
soul
to it
out of it.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes the soul out of it, and that's why it has no longevity. So you listen to the likes of Ed Sheeran. I'm not picking on Ed Sheeran. I mean, he's an amazing songwriter and all that. But do you think he'd be singing 17 in 20 years' time?
Yeah.
No,
you know what I
and in
mean?
fairness, I love his music and all the rest of it. But when you go to see you playing, like see what used to get me is it's all the hand things, and you could
I'll tell you a
see
great
that
story.
you felt every minute of that.
I'll tell you a great story, right? So we used to play, we played in Cork, and for years this couple and a woman used to come to the gigs, right? So every gig, the woman would stand at the front of the stage with her hand on the stage. And after a while, first she's a proper fan, she's at every gig in Cork, but then it started freaking me out, because you just, every time, you didn't even have to look, you knew she was going to be there.
Can't
Kind
debate
of
down
thing.
misery.
Or Laura Kavanagh.
I said to the couple one day, I said, see her mate, I said, what's the fucking story with her, you know? She was deaf, right?
Oh, so she
used to feel the
vibration.
music vibrating through her hand.
Very
And what you were
good.
talking about, she'd get the lyrics from
Yeah.
the hand movements and stuff.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
That makes, because, I mean, if deaf people like your music, it's the same.
Yeah.
You're doing something right.
And
Yeah.
funnily enough, when we came in here, we were chatting before the podcast. I turned around to Kiera, I said, your dad actually talks the way he sings, like he uses all the hand signals, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
But, you know, when I started, I studied singing for about 15 years or something like that. And with me, teacher taught me, right? So what happens to singers is, when you're a kid, you start listening to music, right? So say in your case, say when you were 15, you start liking, I'm just talking hypothetically now. So you like the way David Bowie says television and wall, right?
Yeah.
You like the way Mick Jagger says window and door.
Yeah.
You like the way the Beatles say floor and cushion, right? So basically you build up a vocabulary of other people's idioms. And that's how sometimes you listen to an Irish singer and they sound like Damon Albarn.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know a band Finglas, and your man sings in a Cockney accent, you know.
Really?
Yeah, because see what happens is they listen to Dave Albarn from
Floor.
or they listen to Bob Marley, and that sounds exotic to them.
Yeah.
They don't realise that our accent is exotic to
Yeah,
those people.
exactly.
So they're trying to copy something. So anyway, what my singing teacher said to me is, he says, if you continue on in that vein with those idioms, he says, you'll be a pale imitation of all of that.
Yeah.
That's all you'll ever be. He says, the only thing you have to offer the world is Christy Dignam. He says, the only thing they've never heard.
Yeah.
He says, so our job here is to strip all that shit away,
Yeah.
and get back to what you're like.
Yeah.
Because when we listen to music, we don't listen to it from a logical point of view. We don't listen to it and say, that D diminished 7 was a great chord, and you know,
Yeah.
going to C major, and the lyric is profound. You don't think like that.
Yeah.
It happens on an emotional level.
Yeah.
So if you're contriving what you're doing, the emotion has gone over. That's what you're talking about, the button thing.
Yeah.
So if you're natural and honest about it, you're singing from an emotional perspective.
Yeah.
And so what you think about the movement of the hands, that's because I can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If I tried to be anything else, I wouldn't be being myself. Do you
But
know what I mean?
that's, for me, like I grew up going to Charlie's on a Sunday seeing you.
Oh, I used to love
and
that gig.
I loved it. It was like,
It was an
I loved
amazing
it.
gig.
But that's always what stood out about
And I
Christy
never
Dignam in
noticed it.
Aslan doing that. And that's what keeps you original, because
I
you
never
haven't
noticed
changed
until people start saying, because I don't know. I
Yeah.
couldn't go into autopilot, you know.
Yeah.
But I noticed Kiera does it when she sings your song. When she
Yeah,
sings
and that I
Crazy
don't.
World, she starts
Yeah,
singing.
so I
Songs
think
with our hands.
it's a
Yeah.
Dignam. I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
It's a Dignam thing that we do use our hands a lot when you're
Yeah.
just talking. But I
It's
didn't
trying to
know.
emphasise the point, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're saying something or singing something, the lyric itself is not.
It's not
not
enough.
enough.
emphatic
Yeah,
enough, you
yeah.
know. So by putting the hand movements, it kind of emphasises
They're
how
trying to get
important,
it across,
how
yeah.
But
important
it is
you feel
very
about it.
natural. Like I know, I had like that. People coming up to me at gigs and saying, "Oh, and you do the same as your dad with your hand movements," and like that. I was like, "Do I? I didn't know."
Yeah.
Now I do, because I kind of will act out what I'm singing. But
Yeah.
and then I started getting paranoid, thinking like I don't want people thinking I'm trying to be like.
No,
I'm-
but I
because
think
it is
love that.
genuine.
I thought
But
that
it's
was lovely.
genuine.
I
I remember
genuinely
saying to you,
love
I
that.
love that you do that.
Yeah,
That
but
you
it
do
is-
that.
it is
You do
just-
that.
She consciously
genetic
tries to
thing.
not do anything
Yeah, I
that's
know.
related to me, because you know, people would think it's an advantage to Kiera being my daughter, but it's actually a disadvantage,
Yeah.
because most people will dismiss her
Yeah.
because you think, you're only there because of your dad.
She's riding
Yeah.
on your
And I've
coattail.
never
Yeah.
did anything, you know, I've never did anything to help. She won't let me
Yeah.
to help her. And, you know, you only have to listen to her singing. And I'm not just saying it because she's my daughter. She's an
Oh, we
amazing
know.
singer.
We've
do you know?
heard her
I
sing.
So,
I
you
don't
know,
shut
some
up about
people, but people still say that,
Oh,
you
you
know,
guys.
just judge her on what she's doing there. Don't be judging on who the fuck she is.
Yeah.
It's not her fault she's my daughter, do you know what I mean?
And she even said to herself, when people come up and say, "Oh, you're Kiera Dignam," she's like, "I'm Kiera."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because
I
she's
don't
a
like-
writer.
I don't
And that's
like to be
even
in her position.
that's when they're being nice. They say you're Kiera Dignam. Most
Yeah.
of the time, it's you're Christy's daughter. And I'm
Yeah.
like, sometimes I'm also called
Yeah.
Kiera.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
Christy,
I don't envy her position. I wouldn't like to be at the reverse.
Yeah.
That she was successful before me. I was her,
Yeah.
her son. And, you know, I wouldn't like to be in that position
But
because I'm
in
sure
fairness,
it's
she's had a good guide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
absolute.
But she also has a
lady that
natural
she's raised.
talent, you know,
She
because,
does, absolutely.
tough. You know, like as I said, I studied singing. And if I was to technically show you what she does compared to what she's a much better singer than I am. You know, I can't show you technically what she does, you know. But just on her range and stuff, she's a much better singer than I'd ever be. Do you know what I mean?
and you're really
that's just
proud where we
natural.
can see that.
Yeah, of
This
course
is
I'm
not the
proud.
Kiera show.
No,
But don't stop.
No.
Now, Christy, I have a random question somebody sent
on.
me in for you.
I like random.
It is very random. What is your morning routine? Somebody wants to know.
What?
I
Oh,
grew
this is
up-
gonna be so boring.
I grew up in the morning. I have me porridge. I give the dog a few treats, and I do a bit of Tai Chi sometimes out the back garden.
Do you?
Yeah. So
And then
Good man.
you take your tablets.
and I take my tablets, about 100 tablets, because I have 2 cancers.
Yeah.
So if one's not acting the bollocks, the other one is, you know. So I'm bouncing between tablets as well. So I take a load of tablets. I forgot about that. So a load of tablets, Actimel, porridge, treats for the dog, bit of Tai Chi.
So just a normal man
That's
doing
it.
Tai
It's
Chi.
like, Did you do that out the back garden?
How are you feeling in yourself?
I feel grand. Look, Kiera, I'll tell you, when I got diagnosed on Patrick's Day 9 years ago, right? And Kiera was getting married that July,
14 weeks later.
and she said to the doctor on the day, says, "You think he'd be all right for me wedding?" And he said, "I don't think he's going to make it through the day, you know."
Yeah.
There was about 24 hours left. He said, "If he responds to the chemo, we've a chance." Now, then, when I kind of responded positively to the chemo, and they were letting me out of hospital, the doctors said, "Look, if you've anything on your bucket list," he said, "you've about 6 months left." He says, "Get it done now because you've about 6 months." And in
9
hospital,
years later.
in hospital, they don't sugarcoat it. You know,
Yeah.
they don't go,
It's
"Listen,
very
Christy,
blunt. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry." It's
Yeah.
just like you've got cancer. No, in
Yeah.
fact, you've got 2 cancers. Because God, when God was looking at me, he said, "You think it's bad to have monk?" I said, "There's no running to the bastard." So, but that's, you know, so the way I look at it is every day you get your foot on the floor is a good fucking day.
Yeah.
And Laura, I mean, you know, just from family experience,
Yeah.
how life is so fickle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how it can turn on here's a story as well. So if you'd have said to me the day I got diagnosed, somebody in the Aslan organisation is going to be dead by the end of this year, I'd have said, obviously it's me, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, our manager got killed in a fire in Norway. Our social media girl got killed in a fire down in fucking Galway.
Jesus.
And our keyboard player went in, he had a twisted gut. He went in to get his gut sorted and he found spots on his liver.
Oh, God.
Cancer, he fucking died. So the three of them died within a 6-month period.
Oh my God.
And I'm still here.
So
do you know
you
what I mean?
really are the man who stayed alive.
But
Yeah.
no, the point I'm making is you never fucking
Yeah, you
know.
just
Do you know what I
don't
mean?
know.
Yeah.
You can walk out here now and walk under a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just should treat every day like it's precious. That's the way I do.
It is precious.
Because what I do now is, because a while ago there we did a gig in Portlaoise, right? And the people that owned the sound system wanted to come and get a photograph. So they came in and they were getting a photograph, but there was a woman standing beside me and she was coughing and spluttering, and I was on chemo at the time. So when you're on chemo, you fuck out, you know, immune system, right?
So you're moving
So-
away from her.
I was trying to, but anyway, the next day I got a bit of a pain in me fucking kidney. By that night I got fucking sepsis.
Oh, God.
And I nearly died, didn't I? So fucking my kidneys were failing, my heart, everything was failing. And we rang a guy, Gerald Keane. I don't know Gerald Keane, he's a solicitor. But I was in the waiting room in Blanchardstown Hospital, and Darren rang him. I said, "Look, he's fucking dying here in front of us." And he knew someone of the top doctors in Blanche. And within a few minutes, they came out and decided to put me on this mad antibiotic thing. But the point I'm making is, think, just drop of a hat, you can be dead.
But
you
even
know?
that, when all that happened, obviously when these things happen, we're trying to hide it from him because we don't want to come in and go, "Listen, you're dying."
Yeah.
So when that happened, they actually when they got him in, they said like he's in kidney failure. So at that point, if he'd have been left sitting in that waiting room,
Yeah.
he
He'd
100% would have
Yeah,
been
would
dead.
be
Like,
gone.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's just the way.
So he
things
said
are-
to me, the nurse said to me, when I was getting discharged that day, she was a couple of weeks later, she was saying that when they got me, had you waited, I was in septic something. Right? It said
Septic shock.
Septic shock, right? But I said 12 hours later, I forget what she called it, but she says we wouldn't have been able to bring it back. It had gone beyond the point of no return kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I'm just so fucking lucky.
You're really meant
Yeah.
to be here.
Yeah.
I
Jammy, you know.
spoke to my dad today. I was out with my dad and I said to him, "Do you have a message?" Because we're giving Christy messages. And he just said he wanted to say to you, he thinks you're amazing. He's loved your music all your career. And he just wishes you all the best. So I just want
that's
to pass that
nice.
on from me, dad.
That's nice.
But look, it is amazing to be sitting here with you and you are a storyteller, and Laura kept saying that to me.
Yeah.
But even the first few minutes, I'm like, this man has a realm of information.
He's
Telling me about
absolutely
trains and clocks. I haven't got a clue. This is like,
But that's the thing that's great about music, you know. With music, as you know, with all the studying I done, the more I studied it, the more I learned I don't fuck all about singing. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? The more you
But you
know, the
feel
more
it
you know
though.
you don't know. Do you know, kind of thing. And with music, you never reach a point where you say, "Right now, I've reached the pinnacle. That's
Yeah.
it. I can't get any better." You can get. There's no.
Yeah.
There's no.
Always
Yeah.
learning.
There's
Yeah.
no top.
Like you've been, how long is Aslan? It's a 40 years
yeah.
this year.
And here's the story for you. Right, just I'm sorry
No,
for
you're
interrupting
good.
you.
I love the way everything we say, he goes, "Here's a story for you." I
I
love
told
it.
you he's a great
When,
storyteller.
when we were 19, it was the day that the Stardust Fire. Remember the Stardust
Yeah.
Fire?
Yeah.
So myself and my wife were going over to see the sister in Australia, in Sydney, and we were going over to Sydney. So we went over anyway, we stayed there for a couple of months, and we loved it over there, right? So we said, we weren't married at the time. I said, "Look, I'll go back to Ireland, we give Aslan a year." I said, "And then we come back to Australia, we get married, come back to Australia and have a family, and we rear our kids." And Catherine is still at home with the bags packed, waiting for that year to end.
Waiting for that to come.
40 years later.
Yeah.
Yes, we're actually going to move to Australia. Isn't
Yeah.
that mental?
Before I could have had a peck of wallaby.
Well,
She
you
could
would
have
have Darren.
been the
Yeah,
next
that's true.
Kylie Minogue.
Yeah.
Next guy, even know. I love it.
But yeah, so,
Better
you
than
know what I
Kylie
mean?
Minogue.
Life is weird the way it just, you
Yeah.
know, John Lennon said life is what happens when you're making plans.
Yeah.
And that's the way, like I found in my career, even in personal life, you have a goal, right? So you're here and you have a goal. So from A to B, that's your goal.
Yeah.
And something incidental happens. and all of a sudden, boom, your career goes and
So,
like, you know that thing that we were talking about earlier on, the Finbar Fury thing on the Late Late Show.
That was
But there's a
brilliant.
little incident. It was Finbar's party, his 70th birthday, and the Late Late said he wanted to have some friends on the Late Late Show. So we said we'd do it. So initially we were doing one verse of the song, sitting on the couch, right? So when we were doing the rehearsal that day, Ryan Turbiddy is kind of going like that, keep going kind of thing. And the bloke who does the stage manager was going, no, this section only has 38.3 seconds, you know.
Yeah.
And he said, oh God, keep going. So we ended up doing a kind of half of
That
the
was
song.
the Willie McBride one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that
But
was
when you look at the
brilliant.
success of that, you know, and what that did was, I noticed after a lot of the people people used to look at Aslan like in between robbing cars and battering people. We wrote the odd song, Scumbags from the North, you know, kind
So
of thing.
far from it.
Yeah, but now people see us, view us differently.
Yeah.
And that Late Late Show thing kind of brought a new audience to the band.
Yeah.
Of course.
That was, so that's what I'm saying, things that you would never even consider.
You had your people who would have judged it, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then
And
when
people
they
love
actually
judging it.
see you like that, they're like,
People
oh, no,
love
hang
judging
on,
it.
he's
And people
actually
just think
cool.
that even, well, that you're in this box of like rock music or whatever. But then to hear you singing traditional
different-
ballads,
yeah.
it's like, oh,
See,
not
that music
realising.
is in our DNA.
Yeah, and I think with your fans, there's a lot of loyalty to that because you did represent the North Side. Like, I grew up in Darndale. Like,
Yeah.
Swords, Finglas. Like, you represented people that
Yeah.
had no
And you know
mental
what?
Yeah,
access
we were
and
getting
anything.
busted to the Olympia at
Yeah.
15 years old and
See, people
like,
on the south
stuff in our
side used to
brass.
give us
Yeah, we get in.
lackery over that and say, that's nonsense, fucking North Side, shut up about North. They don't understand. They don't understand what it's like to live in a place like
Yeah.
the North Side. Like, even our education system, we were educated to be carpenters and mechanics.
Yeah.
Nobody ever told me I could be a doctor
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a solicitor.
Exactly.
Now it's different, I know.
Yeah.
The education's a bit better now. But back then, if we studied really hard and got a good leaving cert, we could get a job in the tax office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
Don't even try and get any further than that. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And like that stifles you, and it puts a cap on your expectations. So if you're expected to become a mechanic, it's no shame being a road sweeper
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know it's only a few steps below mechanic. But you know, and the same with the music. Like when we were growing up, we had kind of, you know, because of where we were from, we didn't get the opportunities that other bands. We had to work a little bit harder. Now, when I'd say that in interviews, other people from the south side bands would be saying, shut up, Aslan, whinging. But until you've gone through it.
But I love that any of my friends that loved you back then love Aslan now. Like, they've followed you.
I think what people
through.
respected as well is that we persevered. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That in regards, because there was other bands, like, so when we started off, those bands, Something Happens, and Two and New, Emotional Fish, there was all these bands, right? So they all got signed record deals at the time, because the record companies were looking for the next U2 at the time, right? So then they lost their record deals and they all split up, right? So Tom Dunn now, Something Happens, he's in News Talk, I think now he's in,
Yeah.
and the bass player is the director of the Late Late Show, and so they all have jobs.
Yeah.
Tiles Flowers all have jobs in RT and all. So for me, when I started Aslan, I didn't start Aslan to get a record deal.
Yeah.
So when we lost our record deal, that wasn't a reason to give it up.
Yeah.
Because that's
that
not
was your
what my
passion.
goal was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for these people, obviously that was what their goal was. They didn't want to be musicians, they wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a difference. And the only reason I wanted it was because I used to look at bands that were around the time and think, I could do better than that. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Not saying I was better than everybody, but there was some stuff I said, gee, that's shit. And I remember listening to Bob Dylan, the first time I heard Bob Dylan, he had an album called The Times Are Changing. And it was like an epiphany moment, because up to then I thought all songs like Mary Met John in the Disco and He
Yeah.
Fell in Love and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
But Bob Dylan started writing, when I heard him, he had songs with social comment
Yeah.
in them and, you know,
Real
political
stories.
messages. And I thought that just blew me away, that you could
Yeah.
write songs that meant something, that had substance in them. Now, I don't like making political statements in music because it's not my place. I'm a musician.
But go for it,
But
Chris.
you still have to have social comment. You can still comment on what you think is wrong if you see injustice in the world and
Yeah.
stuff. So that's a pretty thing about all these people hanging around waiting. That's about in the Labour queue in Gardner Street. We'd be all standing there in the piss and rain,
Yeah.
waiting for the world to change. And all.
Yeah.
So in that sense, they're probably political, but they're not making political demands. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying vote fucking this
You're just
way
saying
or
the way
that
it is,
Exactly.
the way it
I'm
was.
just saying this is not right. You know?
Yeah.
This is unjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every word of every song, I have to say, makes sense.
Yeah.
But The new album, The Man Who Stayed Alive.
Yeah.
So that was released in October. Am I
Yeah.
right? Yeah. How are you about that? Is it
love
weird
it.
to go out on your own? I love it. It's excellent, by the way.
I think it's one of the best things I've done in years.
I think it's one of the best things you've done in years. And you can even I listened to High when it came out first, and I put it on Alexa, and without even seeing you, I could see the hand movements you were going to be doing, and I did see you then on
There's a
you're
video
on
of it,
TV.
yeah,
I seen you on TV singing it, and I have to say, you absolutely owned it. Like you
What I
weren't
wanted to
missing
do
anything, and that's no
reflection on
reflection on Aslan. It's not whatsoever. But you very much took control of that,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed
See,
it. I
it's
think
something
it's
I
great.
always wanted to do, right? And in the band, when you're making a record with a band like Aslan, like the drummer kind of doesn't say, I don't like this part.
Yeah.
Or he wants all the drums, and
Yeah.
the guitarist wants the guitar to be, So
Exactly.
you're competing all the
Yeah.
time. So I always wanted to do something that I didn't have any of that. I could just concentrate on singing.
your own.
And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to make a song that was just singing in the old sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no auto-tuning. There was no computerised vocal. It was just singing, And that's why, the Leonard Cohen song that we did, So Long Marianne. The reason I done that, Leonard Cohen to me is a genius. He's like a poet or fucking...
Yeah.
There's nobody above him in our contemporary field. But he's not a singer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wouldn't be a singer. So I just thought with the exceptional quality of his lyrics, with a singer that can sing kind of properly,
Yeah.
and that's why I wanted to do that song. And I wanted Kiera to be on the album. So the other song for Catherine that I wrote about
I love
my wife.
that.
Yeah.
So got Imelda May to do that
Love
because
her.
Kiera didn't want to do a love song.
It was a
with me.
love song. I was
So it
like,
a bit-
absolutely
Okay, that's a bit weird.
not
Really?
going to happen. Yeah,
Just a
no.
bit,
Yeah.
Do you know what
I
I mean?
get it, I get it.
It's a bit cringy.
Do you know, it'd be like,
Cringing now, look at
it'd
her.
be like, kind of like, I got you, babe. Sing
Yeah.
it to me, dad.
Okay.
Do you know,
Yeah,
no,
true.
it's
Okay.
inappropriate
It
on
was- yeah, it
numerous
wasn't
levels.
right.
It wasn't happening.
So, but I did want her on the album.
Yeah.
So that's why with the So Long Marianne that Kiera done the choruses on.
Yeah.
And I didn't want, normally when you're doing a backing chorus, it's all of us anonymous.
Yeah.
You just hear the singer, you don't know who. But I wanted Kiera's identity.
Yeah.
And that was very important that when you heard it, you knew it was her. That wasn't just some backing vocals kind of thing. Because to
Absolutely.
me, it was more than, she was doing more than just backing vocals on
Yeah.
it. And it was very important. But that's, as I said, that was it. I wanted to see, could I do something on my own?
Yeah.
Without, because another thing is, when you release an album, it's like having a baby, right?
Yeah.
So you get your baby, and the baby's born, and you release it to the world.
Yeah.
You know? Now the world is going to look at the baby and say, "Do you know what? See that? Did you hear that dodgy eyes?"
Stay
You know
that
what I
thing.
mean?
That's an ugly
Do you know what I
ass
mean?
baby.
Some babies
Yeah.
are very ugly.
But that's
They
what
are.
it's like. Oh, I know a lot of babies are. But that's what it's like. So once you release the song, you don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The world owns it
Yeah.
when you're dead. And it's you're shitting that people are going to criticise it
Yeah.
and run it down and stuff like that. So with Aslan, you share that responsibility. So if people didn't like an Aslan song, I say, oh, they love the vocals, it's the drums they did.
Yeah. Joe, they didn't like
But
your
with this
part.
album, like, I'd nothing to hide behind,
Yeah.
you know
No,
what I mean? If
absolutely
people didn't
not.
like it, it was down to me, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's why, and that kind of made me kind of more,
Proud.
gave me got more impetus to fucking do it right,
Yeah.
you know? But I think it's a great album.
And
It
some of
is.
that, because
It's-
as
And I don't think it's getting the
Recognition.
recognition it gets. Two stories, right? One was the thing I said about it was too different. That was why,
Yeah.
right? Another guy, a DJ. So Aslan released a single during the pandemic just called "Hold On," right? And it's a
Yeah.
fucking lovely song. So I met this DJ in RT. I was doing the Late Show, and I met him in the corridor. And I said, "Listen," I said, "what do you think of the new song?" He said, "I love it, Chris." He says, "It's on the car constantly." I said, "You're gonna play it?" He said, "Nah, it's not in their demographic."
What?
So basically, what they
About
do,
hold on.
yeah, what demographic is, so they listen to that, they look, they get a computer in, and they say between, say, 4 and 6, people listening to that would be kids coming home from school, and kids just starting their homework.
Yeah.
So we're going to put songs on that will suit that audience, right? So then between 8 and 11, it'll be 18-year-old. You know,
Right.
that's how they
Yeah.
work out. And that's why when you hear music now, it all sounds the same.
Yeah.
That's crap,
You
though,
can
like-
you listen to. I guarantee you listen to any radio station at 3 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And then listen to it next Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the exact same song.
Exact same. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you know, there's certain things you do in your life where you might, you know, go to a certain event every week that you do. Say you're picking your kid from school, or you're going to the shop, or you do something at the same time every week. I do get into the car at different times, and every time it's the fucking same song that was on last week when I was doing this.
Yeah.
and the week
Yeah.
before. And
Well,
it's
you
just
know what?
bullshit.
Actually, yesterday about 2:00, Chris sent me a video message, a WhatsApp video from work. He's a plasterer and he was plastering away, and he sends me a WhatsApp video, and Crazy World was on the radio.
And a few weeks ago,
in
at
the-
2
in
o'clock,
the
it was
job.
on when
You
I
had
was
on the
leaving
radio.
Darren, because I rang Darren
Yeah.
to say,
So
2 o'clock is your time,
Do you use them
Christy.
still
This
jokes?
demographic
Yeah,
there too.
yeah, he
yeah.
runs in the stilts and all.
Them
Yeah.
stills are amazing, man. And the sea blokes doing it's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
'Cause
And he
my
got
arms
these
is-
bouncy ones, you know, that the runners use, right? He got these big, tall, bouncy ones, and
Cool.
they have a curve on them like this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So he gets out of the van and he comes, and we live on the Jamestown Road, like, so he comes bouncing in the door. Oh,
Like
up
a man
the
that murdered his wife, you
second
know, the South
driveway.
African did
Yeah,
it.
exactly
He has
like
to,
that.
yeah.
The story is,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly like them. Bouncing into the house, I was, oh, Jesus,
It's amazing
stop
though,
it.
isn't it? You know, like before you'd had a whole scaffolding and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
all to do the ceiling. Nowadays, you know.
Yeah,
I suppose that
all
was
the kids in Bally, because he does all the council work and all, you know.
Right.
So all the kids in Ballymun to say, "Here's Daddy Long Legs."
I suppose that's one good thing about the times moving on, that it's not as
There's
hard
always,
as it would have
there's
been.
always
Yeah.
benefits of technology. You know, there are
There is.
disadvantages, but you know, we can't. There's no point in criticising it and crucifying it because it's there.
Yeah.
It
It's
is,
not going back.
but it's also nice to reminisce though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely, yeah.
would
I'll
love
give you a bit of
my
reminisce.
I'd love my daughter to have the childhood I hadn't
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the freedom we had, like we'd go when I was a kid. You'd go home from school, we'd go up the fields and we'd be looking for birds'
Yeah.
nests, you know,
Yeah.
climbing trees, and you'd be nearly killing yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
And your
here's
mum
the
and dad
thing,
wouldn't know
right?
where you were for
When
days,
I
for
was
hours.
10, right, I lived in Finglas, right, Cardbridge. You know where Sculleeda is in Finglas?
Yeah.
So I lived beside that, right, and Jamestown Road, Buttercrust.
Yeah.
When I was 10
I'm
years
like
of age,
directly across from that.
right, so 10 years of age, I used to go from there 6 o'clock in the morning, walk down to Buttercrust and wait for the vans going out on a Saturday to try and get a helper's van to get.
Yeah.
They used to get a pound, they used to give me mad 50 pence. And I remember a Levi jacket was $7.50 and O'Connor's do you remember O'Connor's in Abbey Street?
Yeah.
And it took me 15 weeks to save up for a Levi jacket, 50 pence a week. But the point I'm making is, I see kids now in my housing estate that don't even leave the estate and their parents drive them to fucking
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. And their Montclair
No,
jackets and
and I
all.
say, why is your kid so fat? They're so fat because you don't let them fucking exercise.
You don't let them walk to school.
Sake.
Oh, my
Christy saying
Lord.
how it is.
He's saying how it is, of course he is. But come here. So I had a list of people sent in lists, right, of all the things that they miss kind of from the old days, right? Leaving your pictures in to be developed and waiting 14
Oh, the
days.
excitement of that.
And then panicking about what's on that camera, what are they going to
And
see?
there was no filters.
He's about to tell us something. Come on.
No, it's just right. So we
tell
made
the
our
story about
first album, Feel No Shame, right? So Kiera's on the cover.
Kiera's on the
another
cover, yeah.
Right? So when we are doing
Still the same size.
when we were doing a reissue, we were doing a
Married.
reissue of the vinyl a couple of years ago. So we went and we got all the negatives, you know, and we were looking to find a different picture of Kiera,
Yeah.
so it wasn't the same one as the original, right? Just to make it a bit different. The albums now, because it's all digital, there's no negatives.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
So if we wanted to do last year's album in 10 years' time,
Yeah.
we can't get negatives.
don't have the
of
option,
different-
No.
We don't have
Yeah.
options anymore. That's fucked up, you know.
Yeah. It
It's
is.
just lost. Here's another thing. We've released a couple of singles that don't exist. Do you know what I mean? Released them. They just go out on Spotify.
Yeah.
So there's no physical single anywhere on earth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Because
digital,
I
yeah.
saw with the new album, you've done it on a vinyl.
Yeah.
And I know, like, that there's a lot of people that actually are going back to the vinyl.
Vinyl is outselling CDs on Spotify at the moment because people like the warmth of the thing, you know,
Yeah.
the crackling and all.
Yeah.
Plus, when you get a record, you take it out and there's the sleeve and
Yeah,
there's the
yeah.
notes and the photographs, all that. That's what makes a record.
That is what makes a
It's part of it.
record,
So
yeah.
when you get it on Spotify, and another thing about Spotify, that shit is that.
This is going out on Spotify.
Spotify, don't sue us.
No, I don't mean Spotify in particular, but the point I'm making is when the albums go out on thing, so people before would get buy an album, right? So let's say there's 12 songs on the album.
Yeah.
So do you like song 3 and song 8, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is they put the album on and they listen to 1, 2 to get to 3.
Yeah.
And then listen to 4, 5 and 6 to get to 7.
Yeah.
And while they're doing that, they start liking 1
Yeah,
and 2.
exactly.
Now they just download 3
Then
and
once
8.
they like
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You don't listen
Yeah.
to the rest of them.
Yeah.
So you're making, here's the thing, right? So we released an album a while ago and we paid for all our own recording. So say it cost 80, 90 grand to make the album. And in the first 2 weeks we sold 45,000 euros worth of records and there was 250,000 pounds worth downloaded illegally. So you're saying, what's
Yeah.
the point? You know?
Yeah.
And it is.
Oh,
killing
yeah,
the
you
music
live
industry.
out
Of course
big
it's killing
time
it,
on
yeah.
that, actually,
Of course
don't
it's
you?
killing it. You know, I remember when we done the Made in Dublin album, it was costing, I think it was costing 80 grand at the time to do it because we were doing the documentary thing with it. So we had 40 grand and we went to a record company and says, we'll use, you know, invest the other 40 grand to get this thing down, finished. So your man got into his files and he said, look, that was 1999. He said, the most successful live album this year is Oasis. He said, it sold 7,000 copies. He says, it's not feasible for us to invest 40,000 pounds or euros, whatever it was, to sell 7. He's using probably said 5 or 6,000.
Wow.
It's not financially viable to invest 40 grand to sell 5
Yeah.
6,000 albums. In the main, that happened to sold nearly 200,000 now since.
That
Brilliant.
album is the best album
I'll
because
tell you
it
the
was
reason
live.
why. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the studio, I remember if you had the first time, so here's the studio that we're in now. You go into that cubicle there with a pair of earphones and a mic. It's not natural. It's not
No.
organic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we were recording Feel No Shame, what's happening is how you record. You know what tracks are in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the band, the drums will go down on a couple of tracks, then the guitars and bass. You know, so then you sing
Yeah.
over that backing track.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's it. So the drums will be recorded.
Yeah.
And then the bass will be recorded, let's say. And
Okay.
then, so there's 1 track, 2
Everything's
tracks,
recorded
3.
separately.
So
Oh.
yeah, so on different tracks. So you get 24 track studios.
And then it's amalgamated together.
That's what's here.
10.
1-0. We have somebody watching the Celtic match.
Sorry,
1-0.
because if we win today, we win the league. Anyway, so then you go in and sing over that. So I couldn't get it together. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So what we ended up doing was we recorded all that the way all the bands the way they normally record, and then I got the band into the studio to set up, and I just got a microphone, and we had to put all foam around it so that it didn't get the noise of my hand hitting the microphone.
Yeah.
And I just sang as if it was a gig. Because then I could sing it
That
properly.
live,
yeah.
And I noticed there's a dynamic happens because if I'm doing a gig, right, and say there's 1,000 people at the gig and 999 and there's one there like that,
Yeah.
the whole gig is I'll get
Yeah.
that bastard.
Yes.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
you're voting
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So that's what motivates you and that's what makes it, you know, keeps you on your toes and
Yeah.
keeps your standard up and all that. If you don't have that, there's something missing. Because I noticed that during the pandemic, when we did live streams, I was just, oh shit, you know. Anyway, so to get that organic feel is how we ended up recording the album, and it turned out cool. And like I was saying about we did a live stream for the INEC in Killarney, and it was just literally cameras in front of you. And at the end of the song, thank you. This next song is, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just it's hard to be natural in that situation.
Yeah.
So anyway, the INEC put it up on their YouTube channel, and then after 3 days you're allowed to kind of use it. So our manager put it up on our whatever social media, and I get that down immediately.
Yeah.
Because it looked like it felt like the drummer wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was, although I was trying, I was singing, it's just something
wasn't
lacking.
natural.
Yeah.
And I always felt the audience important, you know, especially for the way we are with the audience. We like them to be part of the whole thing. But I never realised how integral they are. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honest to God, it was like playing without a drummer.
Yeah.
The fire was gone, that
Yeah.
magic was gone. And then when we started back, our first gig was in the Olympia. And the first song we did, the band kind of started, and then I come out halfway through the song.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hear the band because the crowd was screaming that much because they hadn't been at a gig either.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I couldn't hear the band, so I didn't know where to start in the song. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But just the vibe was amazing, just to be
Yeah.
back at that.
The Olympia was great.
Were you at that gig?
Oh, I was
at
at all of the Olympia.
Olympia's
Most
amazing.
of them
My
anyway.
favourite gig is Vicar Street.
Yeah.
You know, but the Olympia, see, Vicar Street was made, it's the first venue in Ireland that was made specifically for music.
Yeah.
Because when that was first built, we went in for 2 weeks and they brought on different sound systems in. And you got the sound to get it to sound exact, to suit that room. Where the Olympia is a theatre that has music adapted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't made for music kind of thing. So there's certain parts of it where the sound might be shit. It might be great down here, but shit at the top or whatever.
Exactly.
But Vicar Street, no matter where you are, you can see the band great, and it sounds.
That's great
good.
venue.
Are you excited for the Tree Arena?
No.
Are you overwhelmed by it?
No, we did it when it was the point. We've never done that as the Tree Arena. We did it loads of times as the point.
Yeah.
But you see, music at its purest form is, remember you were a kid and Christmas, your aunties would be over from England and your dad come out from the pub and you'd all just have a sing-song in the house kind of thing. That's music at its purest form. Or sitting around the fire the way they were back in the day with a drum and a,
Like when you were born.
Yeah.
With dinosaurs and that.
So the Tree Arena takes away the
my
intimacy.
granddaughter says to me one day, she said, Grandad, when did everything turn colour? I said, what do you mean? She says, was everything black and white when you were young?
She thought like the real world.
She thought everything was black and white. Anyway,
so
what was I talking about? Oh, so the Tree Arena, So the further you get from that ideal, that kind of sitting around the campfire singing, the more insincere it becomes. Because it becomes a commerciality then. Now, it's good for the ego to say, we played the point, you know.
Yeah.
So, when we played Slane years ago, I obsessed with David Bowie growing up, right? So, when we heard David Bowie was playing Slane, we said to our manager at the time, we were with EMI Records and he was with EMI Records. So, we said to our manager, look, we don't care if you never get us another gig. We have to get this Slane gig. We have to play with Bowie. So, we got us the gig, right? So, I'll never forget, when I arrived in Slane that day, you go backstage, there was a few scattered around, you know, people kind of really early in the morning. So, I hadn't seen the out front because your back's in the board and all, you can't see out front. So I walked out on stage for the gig and the place was full.
Yeah.
And on a windy day where the wind catches your breath, I nearly shot myself, right? But anyway, one thing that freaked me out was I was used to singing in a place like Charlie's and stuff where you're looking into the whites of people's eyes.
Yeah.
But in the Slane, the nearest person was like 20 feet away.
Yeah.
In a mosh pit.
And it was hard to get that contact.
Get us the barriers
and
now.
then Bowie had a stage just below the main stage for his dancers. Yeah. And we were told under no circumstances are you to fucking get on that. So halfway through, I just looked like really, down onto that stage. We had to, because I couldn't connect with the audience. Yeah. And I remember going home from Slane that day. And I remember thinking, I was so concerned about getting it right and not fucking up, do you know what I mean? I didn't enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
You didn't take in what was actually happening.
I didn't absorb what was happening. Yeah. So now, since that day, every time I do anything of note, you know, I always pick a moment during a gig where I just absorb the moment. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, that
like
was a big lesson.
I seen you in the Blacker, and that was like...
See those gigs?
They were brilliant, like.
The Towers in Ballymun. Some amazing gigs.
And now it's flattened. There was Carnival on the Towers last week.
And they taught us, you know, that's why the X Factor doesn't work. You see...
They're bullies. That's all bullying all down to the
It's not only
shows.
that. I'll tell you what the story is with them. I remember playing a gig in Kinsale, right? And we were down, so we did a sound check. And we went down, we're sitting in the car waiting for the gig to happen. And we were counting punters going in to see if we had enough petrol to get us back to Dublin. Right? So those things teach you how to become a singer. Yeah. And playing to 3 people where you know there's nothing to hide behind. Yeah. You know, so I found some of the best gigs I've ever done have been to 10 people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because you really have to work at it, you know. So all those little things teach you how to become an artist and how to become a singer and all that. So in the X Factor, you have a situation. I remember this happened a few years ago. So there used to be a thing called All Star or You're a Star or something. It was called on RTA. So it was like a talent show.
Yeah,
right?
I remember.
So this young fella, I think his name was Costello. I can't remember his voice. He's from Waterford. But he came on it and he won the show and he represented us then in the Eurovision, right? And he was dire, he destroyed in the Eurovision, and he came back here and he was crucified by the press, right? And I remember thinking, right, here was a kid, a man with a soul, with feelings, just like all of us, right? He was a non-entity, nobody. Within 6 weeks, he was a household name.
Yeah.
Then he was sent to the Eurovision to compete with seasoned professional singers, and because he didn't measure up, we crucified him. That bloke never sang again.
Yeah. So we never got that chance to evolve into the artist.
And that's why the X Factors don't work. No. Because it's too quick. You know, you have to learn. You know, these people at 3 weeks in the business and they're playing the 3 Arena.
Yeah.
You have to earn that right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't just get that. You're not just given that right.
Yeah.
It's like respect. You don't buy respect or get, you earn it.
You
You
earn
have
it.
to
Exactly.
fucking earn
Yeah,
it.
you have to graft for
And
that.
that's why a lot of these artists, you know, they don't last pissing time because, you know, they're not real artists.
It's
You
your
always
you
find
do
them
your
numbers.
apprenticeship essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
That's-
become qualified.
Like even
Exactly.
what Kiera done. Kiera, I'm not sorry, I know I keep going back to Kiera all the time, but
No, go on,
she,
it's
she kind of slummed it for years doing all the weddings and all these pubs and all.
Yeah.
And at the moment she's just finishing off her own album
Yeah.
and stuff. And I respect that because she served her apprenticeship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She learned. Now, I could have said to her 6 years ago, listen, fuck all that wedding shit.
Yeah.
Here's a studio. This
Yeah.
is what
You
you're
could
going to
fast
do.
track her.
We could have,
Yeah.
but I'd have done her no favours. You know
No.
what I mean? It's like people to ask me, you know, they ask me for opinions. They send you a CD, but you know, what's your opinion? And they don't want your opinion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a band called Vinci, an amazing band from where I'm from. So I used to be in this kind of singing thing years ago when I was a kid, about 11. And the woman that ran it rang me one day and said, listen, my son's in a band called Vinci. They're amazing. And they just can't catch a break. It's
Yeah.
nothing you can do to help them. So I said to her, I said, listen, I said, before I do this, I said, I want to tell you a story. So I had a singing school. Myself and Kiera were running the singing school before I got cancer. And I'd get a phone call off a mother, right? I have a 14-year-old daughter who's the next Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
When this girl sings, it's like angels jumping out of her mouth.
But the
So
reality.
Sounds like Barbie.
I'd book an audition and I'd be dying for Tuesday for this
Yeah.
audition. The owner would come in and she wouldn't have a note or bleeding
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And the mother would be and I'd be like, what the fuck is she hearing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a mother's love, that's what she's hearing. So I said this to the woman. I says, I said, voice, if these are shit, and I tell you they're great, I said, I'm not doing you any favours.
Yeah.
Because you'll continue being shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I said, if I say that, I'm going to give you criticism. I was going to be honest, but it'll be constructive criticism.
Yeah.
I'll be trying to, anyway, I said, send me. So he sent me a song called Lion by this band Vinci. And they were amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good they were. So we were playing the Ivy Gardens a couple of weeks later. So I asked them, did you want to support us in the Ivy Gardens, right?
brilliant.
Listen to this. So they came to the Ivy Gardens. So they done the gig and they were great on the gig, right? So we did their gig then after them. And I walked off the stage and they were all backstage and they were all crying. So I kind of, oh Jesus, were we that bad? Joking.
Yeah.
The lead singer's father died of a heart attack at the fucking gig.
I don't believe
At the gig.
it.
Yeah.
Oh my
At the
God.
fucking
see him.
gig.
No. Oh my
It was
God.
the biggest day in his life, probably. And
Yeah.
But his dad got to see him.
No, I mean the
At the beginning of the
demand.
gig, happened at the beginning
Oh
of the
my
gig.
God.
Yeah.
On his way
But
in.
come here, while you're on that subject, actually, two very good friends of mine, Paddo and Bucko, their names are, so you can imagine they're dubs. They messaged me last night because we'd put up question boxes and they have a band called Cantered Soul. They
Right.
sent me a link. I'll send it on to Kiera for you to have a look. But I did tell them that I'd give them a shout out and let you know that they did ask for you to listen to it.
Absolutely,
They're
I listened to it.
absolutely brilliant, these boys, and they're like one
I love
on
music.
guitar, banjo. Bucko's got a real kind of husky voice, you know,
That's why
reminds
I
me
like
of your
Vinci.
voice,
That's
and
why I
they'd be
like
on your
Vinci.
style.
'Cause
Yeah,
Vinci,
exactly.
The singer sounds like a man. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a girl.
Yeah,
The last
yeah.
minute, you wouldn't know
Doesn't
if
sound
it's
like a girl.
you know.
Offending people left, right, and
Exactly.
centre.
No, but you know, it's just be who you are. So that's what I liked about Vinci. But yeah, I'd love to hear them because I love new music.
Absolutely.
You know when you hear a new band, it's great. You know, it's
Yeah,
real,
yeah.
feeds the soul.
Yeah,
The
and we
music
all
is
used to get the
amazing.
bus into town to see us. We were like 14 and 15. That's it, with them boys, like, and you know, some of the girls we'd know that some of us weren't getting in, so we'd bring extra clothes. And if you didn't get in at the door, if they said to you, "No, you're too young," you'd go round the corner, you'd top up your makeup, you'd change your clothes, and you'd run back
Try
around
again.
And
and
did it
try
work?
again. A lot of the times it did.
If
yeah,
it's
and
first
they
you
go
don't
on.
succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they
See,
didn't
we were
realise that it'd be a
dead
different
wild.
bounce.
When we started off, we used to play, you know, Fibber McGee's and Dark
Yeah.
Parnell
Yeah.
Street. That used to be called the Ivy Rooms. But the 48, which is the English bus, that was the terminus.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked that as a venue because everybody gets the
Everybody's
last
getting off
bus
in
home.
Finglas, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, see those days, you know. But they, you know, that's people kind of, you're part of their life story almost, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like a soundtrack to their life. Because I listen to, you know that song, We had joy, we had fun, we
Yeah,
had seasons
in
in
the
the
sun.
sun. When I hear that, it reminds me when I was a real young kid,
Yeah.
you know, a summer kind of time.
Yeah.
So there's different songs have that, and there's Gilbert O'Sullivan has a couple of songs that would do that, and that's what I love about music. It's like a little soundtrack
It's a story,
of a moment
isn't
in
it?
time.
You can
know.
actually build a story of your
Yeah.
life on a track if
Yeah.
you want to. Like,
And you know what music can do for people. Like, the amount of people have said to me was such a thing, kind of maybe got them out of depression or brought them through a certain.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. That to me is better than any #1 record or anything like that. You know, that's what it's all about. You know.
we will get back to the pre-technology as well now in a minute, but I do want to say, I know you're checking their score there. I do want to
Darren's
say,
not on the ball now with the
Sorry,
scores.
second.
So-
no, you're
scores.
fine.
Still one that.
Still 1-0.
Still 1-0, Darren.
Before we go back to the pre-technology thing, I do just want to thank you, Christy. I've already thanked you before, but Christy, a lot of people already know this story. When my Jamie was in the hospice on his very last day, Christy and another couple of the lads from Aslan came in to see Jamie and played Crazy World in the room with such like compassion is the only real word I can give. We were all in a state that day, but Christy, I have to say, when you walked in and you held that boy's hand and his face started to sweat, I worried and I said to the nurse, is he okay? As he started singing Crazy World to him. And he'd been in there 9.5 weeks. No child is in a hospice 9.5 weeks. And when you was left there 4 o'clock that day, I rang you later on, told you he'd passed away at 5 to 7. And those bubbles of sweat on that child's face was excitement because he knew you were
He
there.
actually was mouthing some of the words.
Yeah,
at the
he
time,
was.
you
He
know,
was.
but
And
you see those things.
I can't thank you enough.
No,
That's,
listen, I'm actually embarrassed that you're even bringing that up. Because you don't do things like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
For, you know.
that was never for anything.
don't-
Like, you'd
yeah.
never, there was no mention.
But
like,
you don't. That's like, if I was to do that, I would be capitalising on your grief.
Exactly. And
that's
people
not-
did. I seen it happen
I've
in
seen
the
it.
hospice.
Listen,
I've seen it.
it's happened to me. You know,
Yeah.
people get you up and, you know, it's just because of the celebrity aspect of
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? They don't care who you are or what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, some things are weird. I did the yoke a while ago. Sometimes I'll do a guest appearance at a birthday party.
Yeah.
So we had to do this birthday party.
It's my birthday in July.
Just throw it out there.
But anyway,
So book it in.
It was the two girls, and it was having their 40th, right? So I said, where's the two birthday girls? So happy birthday and all that. So we're doing the song, about the third song, I think we were doing Angie Being Then. So the way the place was, it was like an L shape, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that's the venue, right? And we're here, right, singing. And here, there's 2 doors into the bar.
Yeah.
Halfway through Angie, the two of them walked past me into the bar.
Stop.
And I'm going,
Are you serious?
yeah, so these have to get me out. So I was getting paid, so that's the only thing that kept me on stage.
But it's
But
rude.
after the gig then, right, of course it's rude, it's so disheartening. After the gig then, can we get a photo, huge fans? I mean, you didn't even fucking listen to the gig.
Yeah, but they have to make sure to get the
But to get the
photograph on
photograph.
Facebook.
Ah, yeah, just to say you were there.
I hate that.
We know
Yeah.
plenty of them
I
people.
hate that.
Yeah, that would annoy me.
Too many.
Oh,
Too
see when you're doing Angie or something, and you hear people talking in the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It's
Yeah.
disrespectful. It's
Yeah.
It is
Horrible.
disrespectful,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wouldn't do it, you know.
No, not at all.
Myself and Dan done another out there a while ago in for the Bohemians.
He's a good singer, Darren, isn't he?
Dan's great,
You'd just be
yeah.
mortified when you say
Good
that.
guitar
wouldn't you?
players, good piano players.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're doing this show, and because sometimes what happens is if you do something like that, say you booked me for your birthday party, for example, you
In July.
and
In July,
your
third.
brother might, or your fella might like, but everybody else don't
Yeah.
give a shit about you. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So sometimes that hard work, like that one there was hard work. But we did one there a couple of weeks ago in Doyle's on Fisbury. And I said, Dan, just come and see what the vibe is like. And when he went in, there was a poet on, and everybody was sitting there, just you could hear a pin drop. And the minute I said, this is going to be a bleeding great gig.
Yeah.
Because you knew they were into
Yeah.
it.
They
Yeah,
cared.
they're
They were respectful,
interested.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're
And
listening.
it turned out it was a brilliant gig, you know.
Yeah, we actually saw a few good ones in Hout. You were out with Joe Jewell as well.
Yes, so I did the
That's a
acoustic
good
thing.
one.
I'll tell you what the story is with that, right? So when I came out of hospital first, you get a thing called chemo brain, where you just get, you might be in the middle of a conversation, and I just said, mate, I just started to care. I said, "Kira, what are we talking
We
about?"
actually laugh
I
about
don't
it.
do that.
Like
Yeah.
well, even little things like we had it. We say one Sunday we got an Indian.
Yeah.
So we're after ordering an Indian, and had the food, and then say, I don't know what was at to have. Maybe it was a birthday or something like that. And then say like on the Wednesday we went down and we were like, look, we'll just order in, and we happened to get an Indian, and he was like, he started eating. He's like, I haven't had an Indian in probably about a month, and I was like, and he genuinely thought. He didn't have an Indian 2 days ago. Like, totally forgot.
But that's so
That's
how
bad.
that relates to the
brain.
acoustic thing is I was singing This Is, and I didn't know where the first verse was. I didn't get it on mumbled in my brain.
Yeah.
So I had to relearn the songs. So those
Oh
gigs,
my
it
God.
was in the Abbey, was it? In Holt?
Yeah.
So I had
Yeah,
the
we
lyrics.
tavern, yeah.
I had the lyrics all there in front of me. So if I lost it, because if you're singing a song and you lose one word, by the time you remember that word, the
Yeah.
next line is
Yeah.
in,
You're
and
completely
then it's
knocked
gone.
off.
The song's gone.
Yeah.
So I had to. So if I felt that coming, I could kind of throw it, and I had to relearn all the songs. But there was a different vibe in those gigs than was the Aslan gigs because it was more intimate and you could
Really
talk about
intimate.
the story, where the songs came from.
Yeah.
And I just loved doing it, and that's what we kept doing it. then,
Yeah, I
because
really
it was a
enjoyed
great
them.
vibe.
They were great.
And Christy, after you were diagnosed, was there ever a point in the last 9 years where you thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to sing anymore. I don't want to be doing this gig and it's too
Not
hard
singing,
work.
no, because singing's the only thing. Because even during the pandemic, when I couldn't sing, I used to go mental.
Singing
you know.
in the kitchen, you were.
That's how
Yeah,
that happened.
that's why we were doing that,
Loved
because
it. It was great.
it was just the only reason we stopped doing it then, because everybody started doing it, it was
Yeah.
like saturation. But like I
Yeah,
had
you
to do
are
something.
better now,
I had to do
fairness.
something just to
Christmas
sing,
one.
because if you don't, you see, we all have parts of our personality, right? So saying a bloke's like there's certain effeminate qualities you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't display them in society, I'd be fucking slagged and whatever, you know. So when you're on stage as a singer, you've kind of artistic freedom to do all that.
Be
you know?
yourself.
Yeah.
So the only time I ever feel at home is when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Only time.
Yeah, I
I'm never
love that.
really happy is when I'm on stage.
And it's great then that you never had to lose that.
No.
Yeah, it's amazing.
been
Like,
able to-
I'm blessed that I never,
Yeah.
you know, it's because I just don't know what I do with there. It's like, if you could imagine, it'd be like cutting the wings off a bird now almost,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, no, you'll always sing. You always will. So come here. We're going to go back to the 80s.
right.
What did you think of the Holy Hour? What was the crack with the Holy Hour on a Sunday? 2 hours, the pubs had shut.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
remember that?
really?
No,
No, I
even know
wasn't
that.
born.
She's actually too young for this.
Yeah, but
You
you used
were
to
born in
close on Good
86,
Friday.
but I wouldn't
Yeah.
remember.
Used to close on Stevens, is there, all those things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But every Sunday for
years
2
ago,
hours.
Yeah,
never
years
knew
ago the whole the 2 hour thing was because years ago the Irish nation was kind of formed in alliance with the Catholic
Yeah.
Church
Yeah.
for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So De Valera figured that if he kept it going like that, the people in the north of Ireland who are Catholic would
Yeah.
follow what people in the south were doing, right?
Right.
So eventually, the Protestants would all be getting divorced and have contraception and all, and they'd have 2 kids or 1.5. The
Yeah.
Catholics would all have big, and eventually we'd be able to outvote them.
Right.
Honest to
that
God.
was the thinking behind
That
it.
was the thinking behind it. But then what they did then is they changed the whole voting system. So you had a system, we say called it the Divis Flats in Belfast, and have 10,000 Catholics living in it. That's a constituency, right?
Right.
Then you have 2 farms in South Armagh. That's a constituency.
Yeah.
So those 2 farms allow vote those 10,000 people.
Ah.
So they changed the voting system. Because if you look at Derry, I think something like 95% of Derry is Catholic. Only 5% is Protestant. But
Really?
the Protestants are running the thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you know, they were all planted here, you know. And we shouldn't get into the politics of it
No.
because, you know, people have their opinions. And it is Ireland, you know.
I did wonder about it because fair enough, you get, okay, it's Sunday, so the Holy Hour or whatever closed the pubs
Yeah.
for 2 hours. But it didn't
But
make
stop
sense.
people
I thought
getting
it was a
pissed.
church thing.
Yeah.
'Cause I was like,
To
why
let
did
them
they
go
not
to
close
mass,
it
like-
while Mass
It
is
was
on?
to stop them getting pissed, you
Yeah.
know, so they wouldn't stay in the pub all day.
Yeah.
Because any other day they're usually working, so they wouldn't get there
Yeah.
till 5 or 6 o'clock. But on
True.
Sunday you're off all day, so you could go in literally at 10 o'clock and
Yeah.
be sitting there till 12 o'clock
Yeah.
at night. And it was to stop that getting pissed.
That
you
is
know.
mad.
I think
Yeah.
that was the thinking behind it. I'm not sure, but I think that's what it was.
Did you have a naff jacket?
What?
A
I
nap
did.
jacket. Do
What's
you
a
remember the
nap
nap
jacket?
jacket?
No.
I am
Did you
totally
not?
out of
What
the
they
loop
look
here.
like?
I'm way too
They
young
were
for this.
black.
X-Work
And it had
strings.
NAFF in like say red, blue. Each letter was a
Yeah,
different colour.
yellow and something
Oh,
else.
when I
No.
think back to it, it was rotten, but I thought I was the coolest.
Oh,
Seriously.
yes,
Yeah.
I could show you photographs.
Yes,
Oh,
you
Jesus,
could.
I could, but I won't.
There was one I stumbled across. He had a full-on perm, a linen suit,
See, my
and a
wife is
pair.
hairdresser.
Stop.
That's
Like
don't
I'll
make
tell you what it was.
excuses.
No, it wasn't.
Don't make
I'll
excuses.
We
tell you
need
what happened.
access to that photograph.
I told you about
Jesus.
Bowie, right? So I was obsessed with Bowie. Bowie has an album called David Live, and he's in this blue suit, and it's kind of a short jacket and a pair of kind of, those pleated trousers and all. And
The
'cause
real tight, I think I know the shiny blue suit, is it?
no, it's kind of like a blue linen thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love Bowie because this suit, he looks amazing in it. So I got a roll of material that happened to be kind of beigey, kind of creamy, and I went to a tailor, and the album sleeve was.
I want that.
So that's the suit she's talking about.
Yeah, but hang on now. He's forgetting. He's
shoes.
making it out. The shoes were wicker. Wicker.
Wicker
sandals.
plastic. Do you remember the plastic shoes you used to get like sandals years ago?
Like the jelly sandals, but
Yeah.
they were
Oh,
wicker.
stop.
Mine
Stop
were
it.
see-through. Do you want wicker? Do you want
People are
plastic?
wick-
Please
Yeah,
tell
wicker
me you
shoes.
don't
what?
wear Crocs, Christy.
No, I've never.
No,
I've
they
only-
God.
weren't. Because they weren't even chunky like Crocs. They were like little lady shoes.
Now listen, we don't want you fighting.
I
Christy,
wouldn't
there's
even
no
have
coming
been
back
the
from this
house
of
story.
Crocs.
I'm
No,
being
neither
honest
would
with
I.
you.
Good
There's no coming back from that fashion mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, no, listen, I've had,
And then you had lime green dungarees.
I never wore them. I bought them in Spain. You know when you buy things in your holidays?
I bought big gold sparkly boots there about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
runner boots in the Nike shop, thinking, yeah, I'll rock them. I look like Rihanna. And then I got them home and put them on to.
Well, I used to
Ah.
stand.
They don't look
here.
the same in the
I
rain.
got green
You'd
dungarees.
have to be 12.
And I came home and thought, what the fuck was I thinking?
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Never wore them. Never wore them.
You must have had
Good.
But
sunstroke.
loads of stuff like that. That I
Yeah.
never wore.
Shell suits. Did you have
Never,
a shell
no,
suit?
I never liked tracksuits on fellas.
Thanks be to God.
Until they start getting nice. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
But those big shelly ones I didn't like at all in the 80s.
Right, let me see. Marathon bars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Snickers.
Yeah, I
little
know, but they're
Snickers.
still way nicer than a Snickers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I think
But it's
a
like
lot of
chocolate.
stuff is different
Well,
now
here's the
than it
thing.
was.
So
Yeah.
we do these gigs for them. You know, if we're doing a homeless gig, usually that's sponsored by Cadbury's.
Yeah.
So there's a guy Owen in Cadbury's who looks after that kind of that
Yeah.
aspect of you know, he looks after the budget of that market,
Yeah.
let's say. So we did this gig for homeless, the Olympia for homelessness. So they brought in, there was all chocolate there, you know, because they were sponsoring the gig. So I'm addicted to fruit nut, Cadbury's fruit nut.
Oh, me too.
Right?
No, it's not. It's, I
Purple
don't
flat
think you are.
market.
No.
No,
it's-
it's like a slab of it.
No, listen, I'll tell you. So I says to him, I says, how come if I get a big bar of slab, it tastes shit, but if I get the little bars in the shop, they're lovely.
And they do taste
No way.
different.
The little bars are made in Ireland, and the rest of them are made in England.
Yeah.
Right?
My dad
serious?
worked in Cadbury's.
And he said, yeah, and he said, it's because the milk over here and the grass and all, the milk is much better, you know, so the Cadbury's chocolate that's made here is much
Yeah.
nicer than the one in England.
Yeah.
The
My
ones in
dad
England
said-
taste
No
shit.
way,
So
no.
if you get the big bars, you don't just do
That's-
it. Get a big bar and get a small bar that
Yeah.
you get in a normal shop, you know, and taste the difference.
That's what I'm going to do, and I'll tell you why. Because I'd be saying, well, if the big bar is 150 and the little bar is 130, then I'm definitely getting the big huge slab.
See, that's what I used
Now
to think.
that's why.
But the big bars of shit. And your man now Cadbury's
Well,
telling
now I'm going to have to buy 4 small bars. Yeah.
it's
But
worth
that's
it.
what he does. He
Because you
inhales
have,
them like.
it's like quality, do you know what I mean? You have to pay for a bit of quality.
Do you know
A bit
what? If
paper, bit
nothing else
quality,
came
it's a
out of
bar.
this podcast now, you
fruit
sorted out me chocolate because
Yeah.
fruit
Fruit
and
nuts,
nut is
definitely.
that's my thing.
But you know what? I remember
Put
years
it in the
ago.
fridge and have a rock
Oh, no, I always put it in the fridge and in the vegetable drawer because kids never look there.
I remember years ago, my dad used to queue during his lunch break in Cadbury's to get all the broken bits because
Yeah.
I work in a detention centre. I used to work in the one in Finglas, St Michael's Lawrence's. Now we're transferred to
I've something to
Overtown. But
tell
back
you.
then, he used to bring home the chocolate and he'd be like, bring it into the young fellas in the job. He used to feel real sorry for them. So I used to bring it all in. And I can literally pinpoint the time where the chocolate taste changed because they'd all be saying,
Yeah.
all the young fellas would be like, that doesn't taste the same. It's
Yeah.
not the same
That's
chocolate.
bringing it back a memory for me. We had a man lived across the road and was worked in Cadbury's. And every Sunday we'd go over and my dad would buy a bag, a brown paper bag, about the size of that book. So it's about, for people out listening, it's about, 5 inches by 7
Yeah.
inches. a bag
broken
full
snack
of
bars.
all the bits of toffee sweets, stuff that didn't kind of make it through the quality control.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And we get it back, and like Saturday, and everybody going for the toffee ones, you know,
Yeah.
in the family, because nobody, you know, the ones with there'd be roses or whatever
Yeah.
chocolates they were, but I don't like the ones with all the gank inside them.
I
So we
love
don't
the
go for the
coffee.
toffee ones.
Gank.
Oh, I don't like coffee. I don't like coffee.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm
so
same.
that's to bring in a memory. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, you know, because you know cocoa beans to make. There's hardly any cocoa beans in chocolate today.
Yeah.
It's like it's all synthetic.
It is, isn't it? That's another thing.
But
Where was
everything,
I?
nothing tastes the same. Here's the thing, you know Jamie Oliver.
Blackjacks, yeah.
You know
Oh.
Jamie
Yeah.
Oliver, right? So they done this experiment thing where they got this bloke who'd left his body to science, right? And he was dead 2 years, and he dug him up, right? And he opened his coffin, and he hadn't rotted a bit, right? In 2 years, because we're eating so much preservatives in our food now,
Yeah.
that's gone into our cell structure. So he wasn't rotten. 'Cause,
No
do you know what?
way.
Honest to God.
I'm just fascinated that you know these random facts.
So random.
It's all
like-
he's
so
got a
random.
few
Where
stories,
do you pull
yeah.
them from?
I don't know.
Do you know what I miss?
No, go.
Fat rocks. I loved them.
Somebody sent
yeah.
that in.
Fat
Yeah.
Rocks,
much.
Yeah.
And then there's another bar I used to obviously I loved this bar. No one ever knew what I was talking about, and I was delighted that on the question box 3 people wrote in. Do you remember secret bars? They were like gold wrapper and blue right and said secret, and it was like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
my ma used to
remember
love
yeah.
them.
they were beautiful.
But you know what's sickened me? I got a selection box there when the kids were kids.
I
You
got
see
a
the
selection
size of bleeding curly woolies
I
now?
know they're
Yeah.
tiny.
That's
They used to
sick,
be about
isn't it?
those
No, but it's
sizes.
right.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah, they're
tiny now.
everything.
All the bars are smaller.
Tiny,
all the
yeah.
crisp
Oh, more
packets are
expensive
smaller.
and smaller.
And the dairy milk is tiny and
Yeah.
it's like paper thin.
Yeah.
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 It's
Not fair,
right.
sure it's not.
Right.
But you can't
No.
beat the old Easter eggs now. I love
Kid
Easter.
got me a fruit nut Easter egg. for Easter.
Yes.
Fruit
I do
nut
put the
Easter egg.
Easter egg, right? I know I put my chocolate into the fridge, but the Easter egg has to go into
Oh,
the
that's
freezer
it.
for a few minutes
If
before I
you-
eat it.
See if chocolate gets a bit wormy. Oh,
Yeah, no, I don't want
disgusting.
to. No,
It has to be freezing.
has
See,
to
I
be
love
freezing.
dipping it into tea and melting it.
No.
I don't drink tea.
But
When
do
I
you
was
ever
in-
get, if you
Go on.
bite both ends off a crunchy, you can drink your tea through it like a
Yeah,
straw.
the same as
That's
a
right.
Twix.
The
Yeah.
holes in
You can
the,
do that with
Yeah.
a Twix.
in the honeycomb.
When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I used to be hounding my ma for water all the time for some reason. And I'd be knocking, and eventually she'd stop answering the door because I just be pestered. So one day I went down, you know when it's raining, at the side of the curb, the water would be gathered.
Yeah. Oh,
I
Jesus
sucked
Christ.
up all that water, right?
You did not.
And I got a fever. So when I got the fever, I drank a cup of tea. I was only about 5 or something. And I obviously puked the tea all over it. And ever since then, I never drank tea.
Really?
So and then coffee is the same. I never drank coffee or tea to this day. And it's all because when I was a kid, we have to wrap it up, apparently.
Yeah, we're just getting there.
Christy has just checked the Celtic score.
Oh, what's
Christy
one
won.
all?
1-1 on.
Darren is not on the ball telling us the score. And
Oh,
he's
It
on
all
his
do
phone.
us.
It doesn't want
It
to.
all
One
do
all.
us.
1-1.
It all do us.
Yeah,
A draw will
it'll
do
be
us,
fine.
apparently.
Anyway, sorry for that. It's just Celtic. If we win today, we win the championship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
That's
no
why
wonder
it's not
you're
just an
stressed
ordinary
out,
game.
for God's sake.
The reason I'm stressed out is I should be at home watching it.
But you're here.
Well, you made a
for us.
commitment.
Yes,
commitment,
you made
yeah.
commitments.
Yeah, we only have a couple more minutes, so.
Yeah, we only have
Ask
a
the
couple
good
of more
questions.
minutes.
Yeah, just last
How
one.
bold was Kiera growing up?
She was a brat. And you know what
a
killed
lie.
me, right? Now, she was a lovely kid. But she got to about 13 and she hated us. And I used to say,
I did.
we gave her... Here's the thing about Kiera, right? Also,
Oh, we're getting into it
I
now.
love it.
she's 16 years of age and she wanted a tattoo, right?
I was 14.
14, sorry. So Catherine wasn't having any of it. No way she's having it to do. So at the time you needed permission. If you're under 18, you needed parents' permission.
Yeah.
So she said, Daddy, Dad, can you? So I said, look, come on. So we brought her down to English Village. There's a place upstairs facing that Chinese. What's the Chinese called?
High one.
Haiwan.
High one,
Yeah,
if you would
look,
like to
that's-
send
that's-
us
that's-
trios without rice.
You know, I've never tasted their Chinese. I keep.
Oh, it's
meaning to.
amazing.
When I was
Oh, it's
there,
amazing.
They were the first Chinese in English. But anyway,
Yeah.
across the road, up the stairs was
Now, were you bringing her
tattoos.
and Catherine didn't know you were bringing her? Oh, God,
So
Christy.
anyway, she sits down in the thing. A man says, "I said I'm her father." You know, I said, "There's permission." I had to write out permission slip. Where was the tattoo? I don't know if it's
My
tattoo.
shoulder.
So let's say it's there on her. Right, so this
Yeah.
the tattoo straight. He goes, Zzz, and she looks up and she says, "Dad," and I says, "What?" She says, "You're my father. You're supposed to stop me doing things like this."
Oh, my God, Kiera.
It was
Like
stinging me.
thrown her through the window.
Oh, my
It was
God.
I
stinging
was
me.
trying to be a cool
And did you
dad.
get it finished?
Yeah, she done got it done.
Oh, she's a wagon.
I felt like throwing her through the window.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you
now.
brought her for another one.
No.
No, no, definitely not.
No, he didn't need to then. I
So yeah, sorry, that's that.
Come here. Did you ever go on Top of the Pops?
No.
No, because I was
used
thinking
to
that,
love
right?
that.
Because me ma used to, me ma was mad for like 80s music. She had like VHS tapes and a recorder, and she used to record every Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
She must have had 100
Everybody
VHS
watched Top of the
tapes.
Pops.
Literally 100.
If you looked on a Thursday at 7 o'clock, if you looked on any street in Finglas or Ballymoney, there'd be nobody on the
Everybody
street.
did.
It'd be like Ireland playing in the World Cup final.
Yeah.
Honest to God,
Yeah.
nobody went out for those. Because I remember we had BBC at one stage and nobody else on the road had it for some reason. It was just the telly we had. And a load of the neighbours used to come in just to watch Top of the Pops on a Thursday. Because then, that's the only way you could find out what was number one.
It was, wasn't it?
And then
And it was
there
English
was a thing
bands
called
as well.
Yeah.
Radio Luxembourg. You'd listen to hear the charts. The charts would come out Sunday night or something to see what was number one for next week and all that. But with social media and all now, that's all gone.
Yeah,
you know,
it
it's,
is.
It's kind of robbed us of some of the elements of
that excitement.
appreciation. Do you know what I mean? You really appreciate it, kind of hearing these songs and seeing the singers and stuff.
I have to tell you a funny story before we do wrap up, because I know Stuart's going to give out to us now in a minute. Right. So the book, this is Christy Dignam, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I heard that it was unavailable, right? That it's out of shops, right? And I was snapping because I had bought it twice and I had lent it out, right?
Is this the first one, is it?
Yeah.
This is the first one, right? The Neil Featherstone one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So what I did was I went to the library and I found it in the library. And I took it out of the library.
It's
And
famous library.
She borrowed it.
I borrowed it.
And you still have it.
I borrowed it like 11 years ago.
So how
See,
much you
you
owe?
owe
Say
a lot.
the army's after me.
There's a
Christy.
warrant out for
£1 million in
I
fines.
did try to find it to bring it with me tonight to get you to sign it, but I'll get you to do it again. It literally still has the library yolks and it's in a plastic cover and
And you know what I
everything.
regret? The publishers that done that asked me years ago, they had to say a pallet of them that they didn't sell, and they asked me if I want to buy them. And I just, and I did, and I'm sorry now I didn't, just to have them. For people say you wanted one, like,
Yeah.
I can get you a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's loads of stuff like that. I
Do you
don't
still have
copies.
them?
No.
No,
I don't. I
Did
keep
we lend
giving
everything
away.
out as well?
It's like records. I get things. And
I'll
get
tell
people
you
to
what,
lend them, and it
I'll
not
give you
happening.
me library one. I'll give you me
I'll probably
library
get
one
me
and
house
I'll
raided.
sign it for you.
My house would be raided.
So Chris was saying to me, that's it, the army's going to be after you.
You owe £6 million in fines.
I don't care, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. So anybody else got any more questions for Christy?
I know all his, I know
Yeah.
all the
Knows
stories.
everything.
I'm over it.
I think.
By the way, we're drinking ice cream, or cream soda, and it's gorgeous.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was one thing as well from the 80s
Yeah.
and
It used to be
90s.
called American cream soda.
American
It's just
cream soda, and it was made by Country Spring in a
Yeah.
3-litre
Wow.
bottle, and it was bought on the mammy's payday.
That's a lot
and
of research.
that had to. No, we just remember that had to last you. That was the
really
only
old.
3-litre coming
Yeah.
into the
But
gas.
you know what I didn't like about 3 litres? You'd only halfway through it and the fizz would be gone now.
that
You'd
day,
be dead.
the face would be gone
Yeah.
now, and it'd be flat. It'd be
And you were so
disgusting.
bleeding heavy.
Yeah.
Just trying to pour it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And my last one was the call cards. I actually have
remember
loads of
them?
call cards. Do you remember
Phone
them?
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
They're
that.
really cool. And we had a barber shop in Ballymun, and I got all my call cards and I put them into a huge big frame. And when we went from the barber shop, then I left it there, and I went back a while later to get it because it would have been worth a bloody fortune. It was gone. Someone was after turfing it in the skip. No, I still do have a few
Phones
at
are
home.
mad
But
though. We had a phone, a public phone around the corner from us. And like, so you've got, you say, a radius maybe 200 houses and one phone box
Yeah.
to cater. And the queues, there'd be queues like sitting there just to make
And
a
who were they
Who were you
ringing? There was
ringing? Yeah.
nobody had phones.
yeah.
I was thinking
Well,
that.
you'd be ringing.
That's another thing.
Yeah, I
It might be
suppose,
ringing England.
Yeah,
Or something
yeah.
like that. And because I remember talking
Or
to an
people
American
ringing their
dude
parents and
and telling them, you know, that I remember they used to have like a 3-year waiting list if you
Yeah.
wanted a phone in your gap. And if that happened, we'd sue the bastards, you know. If they had the phone 2 hours after they ordered it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's mad as well in our polls. Like, one of the questions was, do you prefer life without a phone or with the mobiles and stuff?
I think
And it was
phones
like
are a bit-
95%.
Yeah, 86 on
preferred
me, yeah.
no
Not to have-
phones.
yeah, because you know when you don't, sometimes you can't have a phone. It's a relief, you know.
But it's nearly
Yeah.
like people have stopped living.
No,
Yes,
no,
everything's
that
done through
ties
a
it
phone,
down. Like, you can't do anything dodgy anymore.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
You're too accessible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, when I remember when phones came out first, we banned them from gigs because of the cameras.
Yeah.
Because it was just too. It was putting people into, compromising situations.
I do find it like a, sorry.
I was going to say that even when you were talking about how gigs have changed, like even when I'm on stage, you look out at a crowd and you just see phone, like nobody's
Yeah,
looking
everybody's
at you.
like
No one's watching you. They're watching
Like people
you in
are
their
recording you and then they'll watch it tomorrow on
Yeah.
their phone. And it's like,
Would
be
they not
at the
just
gig.
do-
I don't
Yeah,
like
watch
that
it on
because
YouTube.
when you record on a phone, I mean, you think of it, here's the studio, how much work goes into making a record.
Yeah.
And then they record it on the phone and put it on Facebook
Yeah.
and say, that's not sound shit.
Yeah.
What do you expect? It was recorded on a bleeding telephone.
Yeah.
You know?
On the telephone.
But the other thing, a lot of people said they felt safer back in the 80s, 90s. But I think a lot of that came from, there wasn't phones. Like, if there was... Come here, I grew up in Darndale. It's as bad now as it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
My man and dad still lived there. They're still drug dealing. They're still robbed cars. It just wasn't publicised anywhere back
Yeah,
in the
well, I
80s.
did
So
get a
nobody
lot of that
realised
as
We
well.
how
can
safe it was.
exaggerate things
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
On
A lot of
social
people
media.
did say as well that they felt safer growing up in the 80s and 90s. I don't necessarily agree.
No.
I just think that
wasn't
I think
as
there's
things came out
there is less
afterwards.
value on life
You
now
know,
because I mean,
yeah.
you look at even the drug situation in Ireland. You know,
Yeah.
you hear people getting popped off and all. Like you didn't hear about people getting plugged years ago.
No,
Yeah.
no.
You know what I mean?
And now they're getting
people
plugged for
like
get shot.
€100.
More-
Murders
Exactly.
happened in
Yes.
America. It
Yeah.
was never, yeah.
Kiera has a guy works for. He used to be a counsellor, plays guitar for. He used to be a counsellor in Ballymun, right? So he get dragged. He's doing driving instruction now, and I asked him why he gave up to counselling, which
Yeah.
seems like a more, a better job, let's say, than
Yeah.
driving instruction. Not,
No
anyway.
offence to driving instructors.
No, I don't mean it that way. I mean, you'd get more out of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
from a personal perspective. Anyway, he was saying when he was a counsellor and it was all heroin addiction, right?
Yeah.
He said he'd go into certain flats of people. That was his gig to go into. So he said they wouldn't have great food, a lot of food in the
Yeah.
house and stuff like that. He said. But he says now with the crack, he said I was going into houses. He says no electricity.
Nothing.
He said, they'd have machetes on the table in case somebody comes through
Yeah.
the fucking door.
Yeah.
He said and it got too dangerous.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. I gave up counselling because of it.
Yeah.
But I even know that as a social care worker, like the
that what
calibre
you do, yeah?
of young fellas that used to come in when I started in Finglas in 2005, they were in for petty stuff. I obviously can't talk about it because I still
Yeah,
am present in employment, but the calibre of the kids that are in there now is totally
no.
different.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Dangerous.
There's not a great value on life anymore.
No, none.
It's strange, and it's. I used to do this gig in Belfast, right? And there used to be these two guys who used to sit at the bar in the bar part of this club that I used to play, and they were always there. They looked like two alcoholics, And I remember talking to the guy who owned the place about them one day, and they were two IRA hitmen years ago, and now they're crucified. Do you know what I mean? Because of what he did back in the
Yeah.
day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like as much as these people are doing this shit now, there's a price to be paid for all
Yeah.
that stuff,
Yeah.
And when you create violence or bring darkness to a situation, that darkness is going to come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It's- no matter,
Karma.
Yeah.
People call it karma and stuff, but it's like you're damaging yourself as much as you're damaging the person you're hurting.
Exactly.
Because you're bringing darkness, more darkness.
You
into the
carry
world.
that with you.
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying to me before, if you seen somebody getting battered in an alley, what's the way to deal with that situation? We'll knock the bollocks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
Now
just
you
bringing
can't.
more darkness to a dark situation.
Yeah, now
so
you're
should
just
you not
you'd
go
be
in and
stabbed.
just stop it and try? You can't. You get
Yeah.
fucking shot.
No, it's
Yeah.
a totally different.
Yeah.
So in that
ballgame.
sense, there's also I think it can be exaggerated more because
Yeah.
of social media. And now somebody gets shot in Finglas tonight. You hear about it tomorrow evening on the news.
Yeah.
Now you hear about it 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
There's actually photographs
everywhere.
of
Yeah,
them on
because
the-
it's all on
Yeah.
Instagram and
So-
Before the
Facebook
police
and
even
all.
get there.
So,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
So look, but that's
One
as I
positive-
said, you can't turn technology back.
One
It's not
positive
done
I
by-
think has
No.
come out of COVID is street parties coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I think another thing,
used to
right? So
love them.
we were talking
Yeah.
earlier on. I didn't know a lot of my neighbours where
Yeah.
I live now, right? And during the COVID, we used to go out in the streets.
Yeah, I saw
sometimes
you
and
doing it,
We
yeah.
got to know all the neighbours
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
didn't know for. I'm living there
Because
20
we've lost
years.
a sense of community.
Yeah.
I love that you
Well, a lot of
mentioned
that
your
came back.
neighbours in one of the songs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love my neighbours.
Yeah.
Neighbours are great. I mean, that's what it's about, human interaction. That's what makes it all worthwhile. And I think a lot of the fault with technology is we're stopping that human interaction. You were saying earlier on about that social skills. A lot of the kids are lacking social skills now because they're
Just typing everything.
And here's another thing, right? So when prisoners get out of prison, for ages they have to retrain their eyes because they're not used to seeing things at long distances.
Yeah.
So they're only used to looking at things up close, and it takes them a while for their eyes to readjust. Sometimes you have to get laser treatment and all, and it's happening now to young kids because they're looking at these fucking screens all the time.
Yeah, I
Swear
can
to
say
God.
to my little
That's a
boy
fact now.
is named after me brother Jamie, and he's only 6, and I'd say to he'd be looking at his phone, and I'd say to him, "Yeah, right, Jamie." He'd be like, "Love you too."
Yeah.
He didn't even hear what I
Jake.
said.
We were talking to Jake. It was Jake's communion, and we went for a meal on Sunday. And Darren was talking to him, and he's there on his phone, and like he's sitting beside him and talking.
Like Jake,
Just zoned out.
Jake, and I literally have to remove the phone from his hand, and then he's like, "You remove it," and then about 4 seconds later, he's like, "What?"
That
Yeah,
Minecraft.
and Jamie would be like, "You made me die."
Yeah.
He did that Minecraft.
But it's
stuff.
also this shit of they're so lucky, they have such a perfect life, these bleeding YouTube families. It's like, that's
yeah.
not
It's
real.
not real.
Far
The
away
minute-
hills always look
The
greener.
minute that camera shuts off, the mother
There's a
shouting at
great
the
story
kids.
in NA, when I was in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, I shouldn't really be saying it, but they used to have this story
It's
and
a
all
safe
that.
space.
You know, we all have problems in our life, right? So you say to yourself on Tuesday, right, I'm going to a meeting tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all my problems in a bag and I'm going to swap them with somebody else because I've too much problem here.
Yeah.
You go to the meeting, you tell all your problems, I tell my problems, and you're the same, and you say, fuck that.
Yeah,
Keep me
You end
on.
up keeping your own problems because everybody thinks the other people are doing.
exactly. No,
They're
that's
looking at
dead
you
right.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Did you think NA was good?
Amazing.
Like for that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because
you do feel like you're the very like after Jamie died, I don't know if Kiera told you, I went into a very bad coke habit.
sure
and
it doesn't surprise me.
yeah, it did. It went bad, and it only started off on a weekend thing as it did. But
As
then
it always
I was
does.
a Wednesday morning. I was like, oh, I've loads of stuff to do. I'm
That's
going
the
to get it back,
progression of
and it just
addiction.
it was nearly every day,
You know
Christy.
that there's a thing called ACEs. It's called Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Yeah,
That's what happened to you. You
Yeah.
had an adverse, and that trauma will have to be dealt with, and that's how you dealt with it.
that's it.
And you believe it or not, that could have kept you alive. Because you
I-
probably
it
would have
did.
killed yourself had you not
It-
done that.
I-
But then
yeah,
it's getting out of
absolutely.
it. It's coming
Yeah,
out the other side.
yeah, and I
then
did
it does
now.
work because
I never went to NA then, that's why I'm asking.
Right.
Now in
The
4
reason it
years I
works
haven't
is-
touched it,
Yeah.
but
But
I
then-
did have to relive everything in me senses
Yeah.
since then. So
how NA
that
works
would've
is
worked.
this, right? You can't fool a fool who's fooled millions, right?
Exactly.
So when you're in NA, people are talking about their experience,
Yeah,
and you're sitting there going, "Fuck me,"
yeah,
you know, and you're going to identify with that, right? And you can't fool them.
Yeah.
You can't bullshit because
Yeah.
you're saying, "Listen, I see that shit you're doing. I pulled that shit 1,000 times
Yeah.
already." So because of that, it works.
You're all on
and
the same
also
level.
Exactly.
with the NA or AA program, which is a 12-step program.
Yeah.
If you take drugs, right, for example, in my situation, so I was abused sexually when I was a child and all that. So I grew up with this hole in my stomach, like a gnawing emptiness, right? And when I took drugs first, it was gone.
Yeah.
And that's what I continued to take. So if I stop taking drugs, that hole comes back.
Yeah.
So you have to address that.
yeah,
And if you don't address the issues, like
Exactly.
in your say, Jamie, the bereavement of Jamie,
well, I had Jamie because I'd been
I
sexually
understand.
abused by me mother.
well, there you go.
Yeah,
So
you know.
that's the adverse childhood trauma.
That's,
So to me, Jamie was just the last straw.
yeah,
That was the straw that broke the camel's
Absolutely.
back. So, but you have to address the issues. If you don't, the reason you started in the first place comes back.
yeah,
So you have, and the NA helps you to do that.
Yeah.
It guides you. There certain kind of steps to take. You know.
yeah.
that-
Well, obviously,
that's why it
because I
works.
had kids, I tried to avoid the NA and any kind of thing
did
like that
I.
because I was afraid of, what
I
they
was-
said. Well, you have
well,
kids,
I'd
we
know
have to look
anonymity.
into that.
You know, anonymous. I'd know anonymity in it.
Exactly, yeah.
So
it was
I was getting a lot
harder
of,
for
but
you,
it
yeah.
does work. You know, if you
Yeah.
stick with the winners. So when you go to an NA meet, there are people who are there to bullshit, and there are
Yeah.
people who are there who really want to recover.
Yeah.
You go for the
That's who
people.
you have to latch on
Yeah,
to.
And usually get a sponsor, so you get somebody that would be around a long time in recovery for a long time, and you could bring them any time of the day
Yeah.
and night and say, "Listen, I'm feeling fucking
Yeah.
today."
Yeah.
Like I remember having #1 records, you know, and And I couldn't walk into a shop and get 20 cigarettes. I
Yeah.
felt that vulnerable.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Exactly.
these are all flicking vibes.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up now, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to thank Laura and Tracey and Kiera. Now, we had a great day today and a good night. God bless.
Christy, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant.
Can I rub
and
this, can I?
Absolutely
Yeah,
delighted to
drink
have
out
you. You can bring that home. Yes, you most certainly can.
Let's go in the pocket.
Yeah,
Listen, thanks
guys,
very
that
much.
was
I enjoyed
brilliant.
it myself.
Thank
Good.
you so much.
Viola, Viola. Right,
Kiera,
I'm
thank
going
you,
to have
Dad.
a look at the end of the match. See what score it is.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Oh, it's over.
He just, okay, that's it. That's a wrap.
We're
No
finished.
choice.
Oh, you're brilliant.